Now available in paperback and e-readers, The Temptation of John Haynes. Given to temptation, pick up this action-packed African-American paranormal romance. Get The Temptation of John Haynes in paperback and e-readers today. A Minneapolis man allegedly murdered his wife because he wasn't getting sex before opening fire on his neighbors. Now, your Jason Michael Meach is alleged to have murdered his wife before going out into a driveway where his neighbors were loading a truck and shooting and injuring them. Now, when I take a critical examination of these events, they fit right in line with the pattern and profile I talk about regarding beta males in my book, The Man Crisis. And when I take a further critical examination of your Jason Michael Meach, he fits the profile that I talk about regarding these beta males in my book, The Man Crisis, as related to the chapters regarding the sexual frustration of the beta male and the sexual deviancy of the beta male. Because the motivation for your Jason Michael Meach murdering his wife in the garage of their home was related to his sexual frustrations and as related to him not being able to have a sexual relationship with his wife. And this sexual frustration that this man had was not really anything as related to his wife. This was as related to himself, because oftentimes when it comes down to your beta males are extremely sexually frustrated. And oftentimes they are sexually frustrated at a young age due to the dysfunctional way they are raised inside of these single mother households and households with beta male fathers that many of these beta males come from. And in these homes, oftentimes, these men are taught to suppress their natural sexuality and taught to suppress their natural masculinity. And because they are taught to suppress their natural sexuality and their natural masculinity, oftentimes this leads to these men growing to become not only frustrated about expressing themselves sexually, but they also wind up separating their whole sexual side of themselves and their natural masculinity and placing it in a place called the secret world. And oftentimes, because these men separate their natural sexuality and natural masculinity into a secret world, this makes it where they aren't really comfortable about expressing themselves sexually or communicating that they want sex from a partner. And it oftentimes leads to them doing things like getting involved with women who aren't really cooperative sexually. And these things lead to these men not being able to have a satisfying sexual life or be able to have satisfying sexual experiences. And sometimes these men will even get sex with women, but oftentimes they won't be satisfied because oftentimes their perceptions about sex and sexuality lead to them having sexual shame and guilt about doing things because they feel guilty about expressing their natural sexuality and expressing their natural masculinity. And because these men have this deep frustration going on inside of them, they will oftentimes be upset about things inside of themselves. And they'll try to project it out onto their partners, but the problems really lie with them and are all internal to them. Now, this Jason Michael Meach's motive, again, was related to sexual frustration, and that sexual frustration, again, came really from him, and he probably did things like getting involved with a woman who was probably emotionally distant, because a lot of times beta males will get involved with women who are emotionally distant and emotionally unavailable, and they won't notice it, and they'll pick these partners not understanding that this relationship was dead a long time ago. Now, this guy, not understanding that the relationship was already gone, he was again in this anger and probably wanted this sexual relationship, and then wound up getting so frustrated he exploded in this rage and then wound up murdering this woman. Now, in the chapter I talk about the sexual deviancy of the beta male, I talk about how that sexual deviancy leads to beta males because they're sexually frustrated, winding up participating in a spectrum of violent behaviors. And that's what happened right here with Jason Michael Meach. He wound up being so sexually frustrated that sexual frustration led to him exploding in this rage, where he wound up participating in one of the most extreme as related to the violent behaviors that beta males participate in, murdering his wife because he figured if she was going to deny him sex, he was going to then deny her access to life. And then after murdering this woman, he then goes out into the parking space where he sees his neighbors, two black women, Michaela Saltler Outlaw and Kenesha Saltler, in the parking space loading a truck, and then decides to shoot and attempt to murder them. And he did this because when it comes down to your beta males, oftentimes when they go out here and participate in their spectrum of violent behaviors, these men want to live in a smooth world. They want to be able to participate in their violent acts, and then they want to be able to go back to life as usual. And this man, probably hearing these people out in the drive space, then decided to murder them because he didn't want any witnesses, and he didn't want anybody there to tell anybody about the behaviors he had participated in, because that would make his smooth world very, very rough. And after he wound up shooting the neighbors, and it created an even bigger ruckus because the 12-year-old girl was holding a 1-year-old baby when the shots rang out, and she shielded this baby. What happened was the police came, and the police then came, and this guy ran into the basement, and he took his gun and then fired off 40 rounds in a police standoff, again showing us the cowardice of the beta male. Because when it comes down to these beta males, when you really take that further critical examination of them, these men are truly cowards, and whenever confronted by other male authority figures, they will go and run and hide, even if they have their 9mm courage, because that's what beta males do. Now, when the police, after they had the standoff with him, they found several guns and hundreds of rounds of ammunition, something that beta males usually do, because beta males oftentimes, again, they have secret worlds, and inside of the secret world, they have things like stashes of weapons and ammunition, because this is the place where they feel safe about expressing their masculinity. So a lot of times these guys will bury their lives in a basement where they have the secret lifestyle and the secret way of living. And this is all fitting, again, right in the line with the pattern and profile I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis. When I look at these turn of events that are happening in Minneapolis with Jason Michael Meach, I see yet another beta male who fits the pattern and profile I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis. I see yet another ticking time bomb, and this time bomb again wound up exploding. And after he murdered his wife, he then tried to attempt to murder two other innocent people who were just moving into this neighborhood and weren't looking for any trouble, but the trouble came from this beta male who wound up taking people's lives because he was upset about his inability to get sexual relations with his wife, not ever understanding that maybe, possibly, the relationship was over with this woman, and now he has destroyed not only the life of his wife in his anger and sexual frustration, he has practically damaged the lives of two innocent black girls. and the little 1-year-old girl who probably won't have a mother. This man destroyed lots of lives because he wasn't able to get any sex. But let me tell you, he's probably going to get a lot of sex now that he's participated in first-degree murder. He's going to get lots of sex inside of that prison, and they're going to turn that tight end of his into a wide receiver, and then they're going to start trading that booty for some cup of noodles, some Little Debbie snack cakes, and other amenities that are sold at the commissary, like Fritos. This guy is not going to have to worry about getting sex from women anymore because the big guys in the penitentiary are going to be trading that booty for those cup of noodles, those Fritos chips, and those Little Debbie snack cakes. So he doesn't have to worry about getting sex out of women because those guys are going to give him plenty of sex inside of that penitentiary. But this is par for the course when it comes down to these beta males. These beta males oftentimes feel instead of think, and they don't think critically about the long term. All they think about is the short term. This guy, all he was thinking about was not being able to get a sexual relationship with his wife, not understanding that if this woman did not want to offer him any sort of sexual relations, all he had to do was divorce this woman and then find another woman, and his life, he could have gotten as much sex as he wanted. Or he could have gone out here and found himself an escort or a prostitute, and he could have gotten the sex that way. Or he could have gotten a side piece, and he could have gotten it that way. Unfortunately, beta males never really think about the big picture as related to things, and they often wind up sacrificing their intangibles like their dignity, their self-respect, and their freedom for something so trivial, and then they wind up destroying the lives of other people over things that are truly trivial. Because again, this man, if he wanted to have sex that badly, all he had to do was divorce his wife, talking about how she was not giving him sexual relations, and all he had to do was go out here, and if he really wanted to do it, go out here, buy himself an escort, or go out here and find a side piece. This guy had options, but instead of going with those options, he got caught up in his emotions, and he wound up murdering his wife and doing harm to the lives of others. Now, I don't condone prostitution, and I don't condone adultery, but this man went out here and participated in criminal activity. He did harm to other people, and again, that's all because beta males only know how to think one way, and because they only know how to think one way, they do destroy the lives of others. But a lot of people will look at this incident as an isolated incident, but it's not an isolated incident. It fits within a pattern as related to the way we are raising men here in society, because oftentimes when it comes down to incidents like this, when you start to peel back the layers of the onion, you start to see that all of these men all come from a similar pattern, and they fit a similar profile. A lot of times, these guys come from either a single mother household or a household with a beta male father, and they have been raised in an extremely dysfunctional fashion. And one of the ways they have been raised dysfunctional is the way they have been raised to understand about relationships with women and sexual relationships. And because they have been raised in this dysfunctional fashion, this is what leads to these men getting so angry and so upset that they would be willing to murder someone because they feel they're being denied a sexual relationship. Because oftentimes, with these beta males, they view sex as a form of social currency. They view it as a part of their own male identity, and they feel that if they are being denied sex, what happens is they feel like they are being denied the ability to get social currency, and they are being denied the ability to have their male identity. So these men oftentimes wrap themselves up very heavily inside of their sexuality, and oftentimes this is what leads to them becoming frustrated because these men feel like they are being denied the ability to be a man by this woman, and they feel like they're being denied the ability to express themselves as a man. So that's what makes these men so angry and looking to do harm to others, because they feel like they are being denied that ability to be a man, to be masculine, and they feel like this woman is preventing them from being the man that they want to be. But in actuality, the person denying them the ability to be the man they want to be is themselves. And this is something that many of these beta males need to work out with a sex therapist, a psychotherapist, or a mental health counselor, because these men are deeply troubled, and these men really have not worked out the issues inside of themselves. And because they have not worked out the issues inside of themselves, this is what makes these males extremely dangerous, because these males, they're sitting around here simmering and boiling inside of this anger, and they're not expressing it to their partners, they're not expressing it to the people around them, and because they don't talk about this stuff, that's why it boils and boils and boils, and then eventually explodes in this rage, where they participate in the spectrum of violent behaviors. Now, when I look at this situation, again, I see yet another incident in America's ongoing man crisis, and it's with each passing incident, it seems like it gets worse instead of getting better. And the reason why it's happening like that is because America doesn't want to acknowledge the man crisis going on in this country. And the reason why we don't want to acknowledge this man crisis is because that points a finger at America's single mothers and America's women. And most people in America just aren't comfortable at holding America's women accountable for the dysfunctional way we have raised men in this country and boys in this country over the last 50 years. Because the way we have raised boys and men in this country over the last 50 years has raised 2 to 3 generations of dysfunctional males, like your Jason Michael Mishk is alleged to be. And these males, again, there's a bumper crop of them, and they're wreaking havoc all across this country and the West. And most people don't want to acknowledge the havoc that they're wreaking. They don't want to understand that there's a clear and present danger with these beta males. And when it comes down to these incidents, we're seeing more and more of them because these guys don't know how to navigate a course in life. They don't know how to set a direction as related to dealing with their feelings, or how to resolve things by saying, look, if this woman doesn't want to give me sex, if my wife doesn't want to give me sex, which is a part of the marriage, then I end the marriage, or I go out here and I find somebody who will go out here and give me the sexual relations that I want. And I don't do this in secret, I do it in openly, and that's what a guy would say to this guy. Again, I do not condone prostitution and I do not condone adultery, but that's what some people do, and it's wrong. But this guy, again, these were his options, and again, his ultimate option was divorcing his wife, and he could have just divorced this woman and called it a day, but instead of doing that, he wound up taking the life of this woman and then took the lives of 2 innocent people. Again, showing us the spectrum of violent behaviors beta males participate in, and showing us how dangerous these beta males are. These beta males, again, they are a clear and present danger to everyone, and everyone needs to understand how dangerous these guys are, because they are all around us. Now, if you want to learn more about the dysfunctional behavior of beta males like the one I talked about in this video, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You You can also find The Man Crisis on Smashwords and the iBookstore. You can also find it on Google Play. And if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, John Haynes, The Man with Nothing to Lose. The man who rules the world runs into the irresistible force of a man with nothing to lose in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get the regular and variant editions of John Haynes, The Man with Nothing to Lose on Amazon.com.